Like I said in a previous video, it happened again. I'm actually on my way to the collision center for them to give me an estimate of what it's going to take to fix our Explorer. Yep, that's right. I was rear-ended at a complete stop while I was on 22nd Street. Nobody was hurt, thank goodness, and it was a young lady that rear-ended me. That was her first real accident, and she was really shaken up, so I felt bad. Even the person I spoke to at her insurance even said, she said you were very nice and understanding and made sure she was okay. I was like, yeah, that's the dad in me coming out. But now, let's go see what's going to happen, and if we're getting a new car, or if they're going to be able to fix this one. I assume they're going to be able to fix this one, but a little part of me is like, I kind of want a new car too. But we'll see how it goes. Just got home from dropping the car off, and looking at the damage with one of the adjusters there, I think we might be looking for a new car. Although the damage isn't very apparent on the outside, you know, if you look at that picture I took, the underframe is bent, it looks like. It's gonna have to replace the whole rear hatch. He kept saying like, oh, if we can repair it. Look, it's right on the body line. Like, there's no way you can just repair that physical damage. And part of the bumper is cracked, the underlining is cracked. I think the damage in excess with the cost of the rental vehicle is going to be close to what the blue book value is of the car. So at that point, it makes sense for them to just total it out and they go sell it at auction, make back some of that money, instead of just throwing it all into the repairs. So, granted, this is all just speculation yet. They haven't actually looked at the damage. It's just me and the adjuster doing, you know, cursory glances. But I think I'm gonna start looking at replacements just to be safe. Because if we do go with another Tesla, that tax credit ends on January 1st, well, December 31st. And it might drop down to $3,500 instead of the $7,500 tax credit. So let's go look at our options. Ugh, no bueno, not happy. But everyone's okay. That's the thing at the end of the day. Everyone's fine, no one's hurt. That's why we have insurance. It just is time consuming and stinks in that capacity. Ah well. Hey guys, it's actually a few days later since we dropped that car off, and they actually have started the repairs on my vehicle. But now we're kind of gauging, do we want to keep this vehicle? And I think this is kind of the, if we're going to do it, the best time and opportunity to get a new Model Y. Reason being, the tax credit does end, the $7,500 version of tax credit ends at the end of December. And we've been wanting to go electric for both cars for a while. So now we're going to kind of crunch numbers and look at it together. But here's the thing. We're going to go over a loophole that no one ever thinks about or talks about when it comes to Tesla. So check this out. Oh, and look, we're starting to get merch. Dana made me a hat. It's my logo. 1M. Tommy with 2 M's, but 1 less M. New hat. All right, let me talk about that loophole. So I don't know if you really qualify it as a loophole, but I've checked around and I'm not the first person that's thought about this, and I'm definitely not the first person that's thinking about doing it. Since I already own a Tesla, I've been given a unique referral code that I can give to people who are thinking about getting one, or people who just want to like test the waters, and we kind of get stuff back for using that referral code. So I don't really see anything against using my own. So I emailed it to myself and I followed the link, and here we are. See, save with Thomas's referral. I'm Thomas. So we're going to look at the Model Y and what we can do to get that price the best we can. So let's talk about some of the options that we have available to us and what we're planning on doing and what makes the most sense. So as it loads here, like we currently do have our 2018 Ford Explorer. We owe $13,000 on there, and right now the trading value is between $8,600 and $9,000. So that definitely is going to play a part in our decision here. But if you look here on the screen, right here, Thomas's referral has applied. Order a new Model Y and receive 3 months of full self-driving capability and 6 months of unlimited free supercharging. Can't even talk, supercharging, that's a word. As you see, the promotion is tied to your Tesla account, cannot be transferred to another vehicle, all the legalese. But for our intents and purposes, we're not going to worry about that just yet. We're going to worry about the numbers. So the first thing I do when I look at Tesla stuff is I go from the probable savings with that big asterisk and just go to the purchase price. So I want to see what we're actually looking at cost-wise. And you can see right here where the arrow is pointing on the screen, it's saying that there's $533 a month for the estimated lease cost. Well, we're not planning on leasing, we are planning on buying. So we're going to go switch over to the loan part, and we're going to type in, well, we'll worry about that in a little bit. So let's go back here. So the starting cost for the Model Y, and this is the regular rear-wheel drive edition, is $43,990. If you look here under the Model Y long range, it's going to be $48,990. It's a $5,000 difference for, if you look here, 330 miles range versus 260.
So, I mean, that's a lot. That's 70 miles in range difference between the two. But here's the other kicker. Those are just estimations that don't tend to be that accurate to begin with. Our Model 3, when we got it, was 272 miles of range. And realistically, on the freeway, driving under ideal circumstances, we were getting about 140 to 170 miles before we had to stop. So even take that with a grain of salt. And to be fair, our rear-wheel drive Model 3 has been more than efficient. So we're going to focus on that one for our cost. So $43,990. So what we're going to do though, so now it's estimating at $693 a month for our loan payment, if we go with that. So let's take a look at what they're offering in the loan payment right now. So full disclosure, our current Model 3 has a 2% interest rate. You can't get those these days. We got that when we first bought the car. This was literally right before the pandemic really happened. This was after it happened. It was in December of 2020. Since then, interest rates have gone up. Even my own bank, who I have immaculate credit through and a good history with, won't give me anything less than a 7.9. That's the best they can do, even with how long I've been with the bank. Tesla here is telling us it's 6.69. But this is where it gets interesting. They have a new option that I didn't have before. 72 was always the longest term you can get. Because in this case, we're not looking at the length of how long we have to pay for it. Because chances are we're going to attempt to pay it off early. So I'd rather have a smaller payment so I can pay more towards the principal over time. So I'm actually going to switch this one to 84 months. But as you notice, the interest rate goes up as a result. Because if they're taking a bigger risk by going longer with you, it's going to cause the interest rate to go higher. So now we're looking at 7.61, which is still cheaper than the 7.9 for 72 months that my bank offered me. So I'm going to go with that. And the down payment is $4,500. Whoa, that would have been a big down payment. $4,500. However, since we are planning on putting money down, we're going to look at this a little bit differently here. So we are looking to see what it would be, let's say with $15,000. Now, for the sake of this video, does this mean we're putting $15,000, $20,000, $10,000, whatever down? No, we're going over the numbers to see what we can do as far as the price point goes and see what makes the most sense for us if we choose to purchase a car. So let's go back to the screen here. So $15,000, that means we're going to be borrowing $30,380 at 7.61% interest per month. And let's hit X on here and go back. And now our monthly payment is down to $469, which is a lot better than $693, but still, that's a lot of money. And the one we're looking at is the Model Y Rear Wheel Edition in the gray color, because that's now the free color that they offer. If we were to change the color, I didn't want to go with the white one again. I actually really like the blue, but that is an additional $1,000. In the grand scheme of things, it changes the price very minimally to $485 per month. So if you look, gray is $469, blue is $485. $16, literally. Might be worth it. But we'll get back to that later. Not really a topic of discussion. So as we scroll down, we see that there's a couple options for the wheels as well. Again, I'm going to go with the standard range. If you do go with the higher one, it does change your estimated mile to 242. So the more expensive wheels get you less range. So why would you do that other than aesthetics, right? The tow hitch did cross my mind because I think that would be nice, but I'm not really buying this car to be the workhorse. I'm buying it because I want the electric vehicle. And here in Arizona, we usually don't want to go with black interior, but I also have 2 kids, so I'm not going with the white interior. Let's go back to the black. The only other thing that we had thought about, these do come in 7 passenger seats now, but I don't know if you've seen a 7-passenger Model Y. There's really not room for 7 people, so 5 is plenty. And the next one is the enhanced autopilot, as well as the full self-driving capabilities. As you saw, by using my own referral code, I'm going to get some time free with that full self-driving to test it out. Is it worth $12,000 extra? I really don't think so. And with the autopilot that it currently comes with, that's what I have in my Model 3, it's been absolutely perfect and useful, so I don't see why I would pay an extra $6,000 for something I'm not really using to begin with. So that stays the same. And charging, this is where I get a little perturbed. They don't include any kind of charger anymore. Lucky for us, when I got the Model 3, I'm anal retentive, so I bought an extra one to keep in the car when we travel and keep one at home. So we actually already have 2 chargers, so I'm not concerned there either. And right now, it's estimated to be delivered between December 2023 and 2024 in January. And this does qualify for the $7,500 tax credit. We'll talk about that more in a second. But that's the car we're looking at. And right now it's saying $469 for that monthly car payment. But we also had talked, let's say what it would be with $20,000. Again, these are just for number's sake, not because that's what we plan on putting down per se. With that, we can get as low as $392. But are we able to get it that low? Let's talk more about that here in a second.
So we just dropped Henry off at school. Now we're heading actually to first the bank, because I want to talk to my local one to see if they can do anything close to what Tesla's offered me for purchasing the car, as far as like interest rate and everything else. And then we're actually going to do a test drive on a Model Y. I've test driven them before, but I just want to make sure this is something we want to invest in. So let's go see if we can take one step closer to making this reality, or deciding not to do this at all. This is you're going to see this after we have decided to buy it or what have you. But as of right now, we're still 50-50. Well, there's a Tesla dealership, but we're not going there quite yet. But there's a bunch of Model Ys in the call that we're looking at. Bank's not open quite yet, so we stopped to get a little breakfast. And these apartments right behind me, I actually lived there in college. So I'm actually already done at my bank. That was probably one of the most unpleasant experiences I've ever had here, and I'm almost 40, and I've had my account since I was 13. I just kind of was made to feel like, hey, you're bothering us. I know you're one of 3 people here, but we can't really help you today. We're not really doing walk-ins. Okay, I guess I will go take all my business elsewhere. And yeah, that was a very unpleasant experience. Since that was supposed to be most of my morning, I'm now got some time to kill before my test drive. So I've been wanting to check out the new Bookmans here. So let's go look at it. That was a fun little stop. They actually have some really cool comics in there. I think some of them were a tad overpriced, especially since they were raw. But I mean, can't blame them. You got to try and get your money out of the stuff you're selling, right? And here we are. The only Tesla service center / I guess technically dealership, but not really, in Tucson. And this is exactly what we're looking at possibly getting. I didn't get a bow on mine when I bought it. Well, here we are in the Model Y. We're gonna do a little test drive. He made sure to tell me, he's like, it's only 200 miles in range. I was like, dude, I'm not gonna be driving 200 miles. Might around the block just to make sure Model Y is what we want to go with. And I have to say, I really am not a fan of the white interior. I'm so nervous and paranoid. I think it's from having kids. And in front of us is an F-150 Lightning electric vehicle. So like with anything, I have my pros and cons. My pros is I'm used to driving an electric car. It just seems seamless, and I want to have an electric car again, since Dana's pretty much driving the Model 3. My cons are that rear window is just so small to look out if you have to glance in your rear view mirror or even like over your shoulder. There's lots of blind spots, but that's what the cameras are supposed to make up for. But it's not always there. My other con is I just don't want this big of a car payment again. We already got one. It's more than halfway paid off. Do we want to do it again? But there is one more pro that I like, and let me show you right now. There is so much more cargo space. I don't know about this little flap thing. I'm not a fan of that. But you also have the same wheel well as you do in the other model. And it's a full hatch. I was always shocked they never did the Model 3 as a full hatch. And the frunk is a little bit bigger, but not by much. And yes, I feel just as weird as you do about the word frunk. I mean, all in all, it's a good looking car. So what do we do? Oh, and I was talking to Adam here. He gave me a little bit more clarification on the $7,500 tax credit that I've had a lot of questions about that I couldn't find a lot of the answers to. But let's go inside now and see what we can do. That's one of the dopest things I've ever seen in my life. Literally moving it with a hydraulic lift. Ooh, so I might have just got some information that might be a deal breaker. Let me explain once we're in the car. So one of the main selling points to me with owning a Tesla in the first place was a lot of the benefits you get for utilizing an electric car, especially in the state of Arizona. I didn't get to utilize that $7,500 tax credit the first time because it was gone and they brought it back. But the things I liked was registration for 5 years was $100. And you also get to utilize the carpool lanes, but I don't use those anyway, but that's one of the benefits, right? They no longer have the registration stipulation. I was just informed the registration for the car I'm looking at for 1 year is $738. Nah. But I have to say, shout out to Adam over here at Tesla. He answered some questions that I had that I couldn't find the answers to, weirdly enough, with IRS's website or even Tesla's website initially, which was the $7,500 tax credit. I completely understand it, but I didn't get how it worked under certain circumstances. For example, in our case, we pay our taxes in over the course of the year. So we always get a tax refund, and also like having 2 kids, we get, the children, their dependents, right? So we don't necessarily owe taxes at the end of the year. We get a refund. Since there's nothing to credit, do we get that money back? And according to Adam, we do. I mean, he's not a CPA. He didn't present himself as an accountant or IS, financial advisor, any of that. He's just telling me as he understood it himself, which is kind of what I was thinking. So like, let's say you owe $10,000 and you have that $7,500 tax credit. You only owe $2,500. Let's say the government owes you $2,500, but because you have that tax credit, you now are getting back $10,000. Or you can roll it over into the next year into your taxes. So that's still a benefit, but that $7,500 discount negates after 7 years because of the $730 registration fee. That blew my mind. I even told him, I was like, oh, Adam, you might have unsold that car right now. But we're still 50-50 whether we're buying it or not. So Adam actually did a great job. If you're at the Tesla dealership here in Tucson or the service center, make sure you ask for Adam. Oh, I just remembered I was going to get new windshield wiper blades while I was here, but that threw me so off. I was like, I got to go. All right, well, I'm going to stop by another branch in my bank and talk to them to see if I get a better experience. More to come. Just went to a different branch for my bank, and I got better service this time, and not better answers, but more answers I'm feeling comfortable with. It was such an odd experience with the other one. Like, I felt like I was burdening them by being in line and waiting and asking to give them money. I think we found out our answer, but now I'm totally torn on the fence about the whole registration thing. I didn't know that had changed, but I guess it makes sense that they brought back the $7,500 tax credit. Of course, they're going to alleviate the benefits that were designed to replace the tax credits when those went away the first time. We just got to talk about it and see if it makes sense financially. This is one of those situations where I want it. Not gonna lie, I want it. I don't know if we need it, and I don't know if it makes sense. To be continued.
And here we are after all that work, guys. So after talking to the people at my branch, well, the other branch, not the first one that caused all the problems, I realized some of my numbers seemed off. They were close to what she was doing, but I was like, there's no way my numbers are this far off. And then I realized something. As I'm doing these numbers for the car, I'm not including what it's going to cost for registration, tax, title, all that stuff. I'm just doing for the actual cost of the car, not all the registration fees that go along with it. Remember what I said earlier? I was actually under the impression it still had that deal going on, since there was no $7,500 tax credit, that you got the 5-year registration for $100. I was wrong. Really wrong. Don't get me wrong, over that same time period, that $7,500 really would be offset by that registration fee and vice versa. So that registration fee was designed to offset the cost of the $7,500 tax credit going away. So that kind of threw my numbers off. And as you can see here, it's like $435. And when I actually click on like, hey, include all the fees, registration, everything else, it jumps to $505. So it's like, oh, that's way more than I intended to spend. Granted, we got like over $200 off the original pricing. And I guess the cat's out of the bag with it too. We were going to put down like $15,000 that we've been saving. I think the answer is going to be no, guys. I don't think we are going to add another Tesla to the repertoire here in the house. I just personally can't justify that cost. Although now that I'm thinking about it with you guys live, well, subjectively live, our current car payment for the Explorer, full disclosure, is right around $260. So if we do that, we're actually adding $240 on, and I'm spending roughly about $140 to $180 a month in gas. So maybe it still is in the cards? But, well, the answer as of right now is it doesn't look like we're going to do it, but we still have a little bit of time left before the end of this month. You're probably watching this after the fact, so you still don't know if we got the car or not. So I was planning on saying yes or no in this video, but there's still just way too much to look into in that short amount of time to determine a yes or no right now. But that doesn't mean it's not the right idea for you watching this, because that $7,500 tax credit is still available and it doesn't end until December 31st. I haven't seen anything official yet, but to be fair, I haven't looked that hard for it. There is talks that there's still going to be some sort of tax credit, but it's probably going to be in the range more of like that $3,500 or so, as opposed to the full $7,500. So if you're thinking about it, that is a good time to do it, especially if you can do it. This car is not something you just dive into. Like, you really have to plan it out. You can ask my wife, before we bought the Model 3, I literally had like a whole presentation for her. I broke down the numbers. I did more work on that than I did on any paper I ever did in school. So I was really determined to get it and make it work, and we did. But right now, I just don't know if it makes sense to add the second one. But on a side note, we keep talking about the Explorer, how I'm going to pay it off first before we like trade it in or do whatever. I tried to do that today. And the bank that currently holds my loan for it, I'm not going to say who they are, just out of privacy's sake. It is the single worst banking institution I have ever worked with in any capacity. Just to give you kind of an idea, you can't make payments on the app. You have to physically go to the website or to a physical branch. Here's the downside. There's no physical branch where I'm at. It just happens to be the one that gave me the best deal when I bought my last car. The closest one is over 100 miles away in Tempe, Arizona. And I'm not going to drive up there just to make a payment, obviously. It's a 100-mile drive for no reason. And when I went to go pay off the car today, it actually wouldn't let me do it because you cannot make more than a certain amount of payments per day. So I called them, and then the online person gave me even more flack, asking me for my PIN number. I was like, look, I don't have a PIN number. I just have the loan here and the savings account. Then she told me, oh, you would have got the PIN number when they issued you your banking card. Never had a banking card. I literally just got the information saying, here's your account, pay your bill. That's it. So after telling me that she's going to have to mail me one out and I have to wait 3 to 5 days before I can call back with the new PIN number she provided me, I did make a little stink, I'm not going to lie, raised my voice a little. I was like, no, we need to figure this out now. And that's when she said, oh, I can still verify your account without it. Why wasn't that said to begin with? I started off very polite. She kind of forced me to get kind of rude toward the end. And then after that, she said, there's literally nothing you do. I have to go into a branch to make a payment, and I have to do it with a cashier's check. Well, that's 100 miles away. I just want to pay off the car. So that's probably going to be a trip here in the near future, because at this point, I just want to be paid off and done with that bank. So when you do the car stuff, make sure you are doing it from every angle. Go to your bank, talk to different finance places before actually committing to the credit check and loan. That way you're still in kind of complete control and complete knowledge of your finances. I unfortunately made a rookie mistake, even though I've bought several cars in my life, where I was like, oh yeah, that is the best rate. Let's go with that one. Sometimes you want to pay a little bit more for a better institution. All right, guys, well, that's it. As of right now, it is a no on adding a Model Y to the family. But I'm going to break down the numbers again, talk to my wife about it. Maybe this is the to be continued. But thanks for taking another ride with us, and let's take another ride again soon. Bye-bye, everybody.